Hey y'all, I'm Paige Feldman. I'm a writer and director, and here on this YouTube channel, I'm documenting the making of my debut feature as a writer-director. It's called Back to You, and it's a contained romantic comedy, and I just finished typing in my changes for draft number 6. I'm really excited about this one because I am in what I feel like is the home stretch before I'm ready to share the script with the world. And so before I share it with the world, I want to share with you all of my progress. And the best way to do that is, as we all know, if you've been here even for just a few minutes, is screen share. So let me just hop right into it. All right, we see here my alternate title for Back to You, Anatomy of a Love Song. I haven't decided which title I like better, but Back to You just feels like snappier for the channel. I digress. So my previous draft, which I have on call right here, was at 115 pages. And you'll see that the current draft that I just finished typing in the changes for is at 117 pages. Now, at first I was a little bit demoralized by this turn of events because my goal with this script is to have it at 110 pages or less, ideally like 107, 100 to 107, something around there, because page count unfortunately does matter in terms of people wanting to read the script and the general salability of it, because if no one's going to want to read it because it feels too long, it doesn't matter how good it is, because if you can't read it, you can't invest in it. Or I guess you can, it's just a really bad choice. Regardless, my page count is currently 117. And I'm trying not to feel demoralized about it because my purpose for this revision wasn't cutting pages. That's the purpose of my next revision, is to tighten and hone and get everything working really perfectly and like clockwork, at least as much as I can, so that when I send it out into a wider read for trusted readers or eventually get to a table read, I feel like I've done everything I possibly can to make it as tight and perfect as possible. This draft I just finished, though, was all about honing my characters' voices, making sure that they were unique and consistent and interesting, and not just unique from each other, but unique in terms of how they fit into the wider world of romantic comedies. Because I want people to feel like when they're reading the script or listening to it from the case of a table read or watching it when it's turned into a movie, that Mitch and Ash are real people and not just versions of the romantic comedy archetypes of male lead and female lead, of girl next door and struggling artist and aloof scientist or misunderstood genius. I want them to be real individual people that feel surprising and interesting and feel like they're actually people and they're not just saying words in order to make you laugh. They're saying things that are they're motivated. So in making my characters unique and different and interesting, one of the things I had to do a lot is rewrite scenes, because I would go into the dialogue on a micro level and look and say, would Mitch say that? Would Ash respond that way? Is this true to the character, or is this just the easy thing that I thought of? And in order to do that, I had a cheat sheet with me that I listed like the basic, like what is Mitch's voice? What is Ash's voice? And I did a video on that, so if you want to see what that cheat sheet looks like, I will link it up here so that you can check it out. But as that process went, it meant that I had to write scenes again, or portions of scenes again, or exchanges of dialogue again. And one thing is that if we're talking about how long the script is, I always write long. I always draft long and then cut back later. As I was typing in the changes, I was actually noticing this because as always, or not as always, but as typical, the beginning of the script and the end of the script, the voices were actually pretty good so far. I think because in the beginning of the script, I was so concerned with, starting off on a really good foot. And at the end of the script, by that point, I really knew who they were and was confident about it. In the middle, and, so like from page 15 to 85 or so, that's where most of the rewriting happened. And the interesting thing is that as I was rewriting, if there was a scene that I didn't have to change much, I ended up cutting several lines from it. I was really able to hone those scenes. And so I would watch my page count go down and down. At one point it was at I think 113, which was very exciting. But then as I was adding in these new scenes I was writing, it started balloon up. And so we're now at 117. And that next draft, like I said, is going to be something that's going to help me cut down. But it is part of my natural process to expand and then contract. So that's what that 117 is about. Now, apart from being longer, this draft, I feel like I really accomplished my goal of honing these character voices, and I feel like I know them better, especially Ash. And I'm more excited about this story the more I'm working on it now and really focusing on these character voices, because I feel like I've created two people who are falling in love. This isn't about anymore a theme that I want to communicate or a type of story I want to tell. This is about these two people, and I really like them. And that's exciting. And obviously the theme is still important, and the story that I want to tell is still important, but it feels like it's starting to take on a shape of its own. And all of this is obviously due in complete part to my work, but also there's a certain point, and if you hit the like button if you understand this, where your story kind of just takes over and it becomes an animal, a creature of its own. And to be a really good storyteller, you just have to listen to it tell you where it wants to go. And part of this, I guess, is just my instincts taking over, but I really feel like the story kind of becomes its own little creature. And I feel like I'm getting to that point, which is exciting because not too long ago, I didn't feel like I was ever going to get there. And so I'm really, really happy about this draft. And I want to share with you a before and after of a scene of a dialogue exchange between Mitch and Ash, the two main leads, where I feel like I really hit on Ash's voice. And this is a scene that when I was talking about morning pages a few weeks ago, and I'll link that video up here if you want to check it out. This is the scene I was thinking of when I was doing my morning pages and thought about the word creative a lot and how Ash might use it versus how Mitch might use it. And rewriting this scene was the first scene in this script that I like fully tore apart and rewrote and added different personality into it. And it felt like a turning point for me as I was rewriting it and then as I was typing in the changes to see, yes, this is the form of Ash's character. And I want to share this before and after because I think it adds something. It adds a character, adds that uniqueness I was talking about. And I think also this is scene being set, at least in terms of its basic structure, because I'm sure it's going to get tighter and better written in my next pass and in any subsequent passes. But I feel like this scene is sort of where I realized that my script was turning into its own entity, that it's going to become a little storied creature that I can't 100% control. So I'm going to show you the before and after here. There we go. This is draft 5. This is the previous draft. So the line here in the previous draft on page 46, when's the last time you created something? And just to show you, this is also here, but it's on page 45 at this point. So this is what I'm talking about, shrinking and then ballooning out. So we cut a page at this point and then that all went to hell. So here's where we started. When's the last time you created something? Mitch and Ash are making challah together. Ash is gesturing to the bowl of challah. Mitch says, no, something that came from inside of your brain that didn't exist before you thought of it. Ash opens his mouth, but Mitch gets there before him. And I don't mean one of those telescopes or satellite pieces you work on. I mean something like an idea, a feeling, a story. Like what you do. Yeah. Why do you care? That means never. Can I stir? No, it means I don't want to share. And yes, here. Ash hands her the spoon. So I'm going to stop there. The scene goes on for a while, and I'm going to share what it now is in this current draft. Like this is fine. It's not bad writing. And it does reference Ash's science background. And then Ash shuts down. But let's see what I turn this into. When's the last time you created something? Ash gestures to the bowl. No, something that came from inside your brain that didn't exist before you thought of it. Ash opens his mouth, but Mitch gets there before him. And I don't mean one of those telescopes or satellite pieces you work on. I mean something like an idea, a feeling, a story. Like what you do. Mitch, yeah. Why do you care? That means never. Can I stir? No, it means you've already created some story about how my not creating anything has made you superior to me and made it so I don't understand you. And yes, here. Ash hands her the spoon. So this scene, it has the same shape so far up until this response to that means never. In the first version, Ash just says, no, I don't want to share. He deflects. In this version, Ash is combative. He isn't stalling. He has an answer. Sorry, my pie might be done. Gonna pause here, and I'm gonna go get my pie, and then I will be right back. All right, well, the pie isn't done yet. It's a strawberry rhubarb pie. In case you care, hopefully it's delicious. And back to this scene. I'm gonna continue on now because it takes a different and interesting turn even after this beginning. Remember, the question is, when's the last time you created something? And Mitch says, because if you had, you'd remember that sharing those things inside your head isn't about revenge or power or even holding on to the feelings that inspired it. It's about feeling seen and understood. When I submitted my demo tape, I needed someone to see me, to tell me I wasn't the only one who ever felt that way. I didn't give a single shit about you. She's talking about the song, the revenge breakup song she wrote about him. Ash says, yeah, that was clear. Ash gestures for the spoon. No, it wasn't about you. Then why write a song about me? Maybe the same reason you won't say Kaddish and sit Shiva with your family, because you think you're the main character and your feelings are the only ones that matter. Ash freezes and Mitch stops stirring. I don't mean it like that. Sure you do, Mitch. That's your shtick. Shooting at a barb and then retreating like you weren't the one who was trying to impale me. So that's kind of where that exchange ends. So I'm going to go back into our new draft. So this part is pretty much the same in both drafts, but the response next is really different. So they're kneading the dough here, and in the original, while they're kneading the dough and kind of navigating this feeling of hate while also this feeling of I kind of like you though, Ash says, I may not be all creative, but I know what it's like to retreat into work. The only thing that makes sense sometimes is trying and failing, experimenting, seeing I'm wrong, adjusting my methods and going again. Finding control in moments of chaos. Or in the case of science, observing a control. Mitch, that's terrible. Wordplay isn't just your domain. And we have here is Ash kind of capitulating to Mitch's assessment that he doesn't know what it's like to be a creative person. He doesn't know what it's like to create. And he's trying to find common ground. There's almost an obsequiousness to his dialogue here where he's just it's like he's trying to be nice. And I think part of it is my own instinct as a person to just want to be nice and like not cause conflict, but that makes for bad writing. So we can't have that. And also it's not really Ash's character. Ash is a contrarian by nature. That's something that I've created in him from the beginning. And I think I was really resistant to that. But in this draft where I am fully like committed to character, I have changed Ash's response there. So Ash says, while they're kneading again, you talk about being creative and define it like the only thing it could possibly refer to are your songs and thoughts and stories and all the crap inside you. But did you ever stop to think of what the word creative means? I know what creative means. Creative means the act of creating. It doesn't mean to put your soul on paper to express yourself in a new way. It means very literally the ability to bring something into existence. So when you dismiss my telescopes and satellites because they aren't a story from my head, actually, you're wrong. Those telescopes and satellites bring people like you new images and knowledge to marvel at, to consider the expansiveness of the universe and how small you are in it. And thinking about my place in bringing those images makes me feel big and powerful and important, yes, but Mitch snorts, Ash steps aside. And I just wanted to break up the speech a little bit because it's a longer speech. They switch kneading. Ash instructs her to pretend it's me. And then Ash says, anyway, those telescopes. I feel important putting them together, as I'm sure you do when you write and sing. But seeing their impact, I'm reminded of how insignificant I am, and it feels safe to then to retreat into the next project, the next creation, the next futile attempt to express how much I matter. And Mitch says, finding control in moments where you realize how random it all is. Can't use the word chaos because there's a big scene about chaos and Ash explaining chaos later, so I had to change the verbiage. Ash, or in the case of science, observing a control. That's terrible. Wordplay isn't just your domain. So we end up in the same place. And I like this bad control pun. One thing that I put on my cheat sheet about Ash is that he does do wordplay and puns as his sort of humor and his kind of defense mechanism. And Mitch's defense mechanism is this shooting at a barb shtick that Ash discovers, or Ash discusses here. Shooting at a barb and retreating like you weren't trying to impale me. So that is the comparison of these two scenes. In this scene, Ash stands up for himself and his own interests and value, and how it differs from Mitch and her interests and values is wholly illustrated, which makes for better conflict and better conversation. It's not just one person being sorry all the time, because that sucks and no one wants a lead without a backbone. I'm really proud of how this scene changed, and I know that Ash's speeches may be a little bit long, so I'm gonna fix that in the next draft, but right now it feels really good to have him stand up for himself, and even reading it aloud, I wonder if he could do more, if this scene could escalate more. But this is not a question for Paige today. This is a question for Paige in 2 weeks, because I'm taking my 2 weeks off before I go through the next draft of cutting. And this 2 weeks off that's coming up, that's right now actually, is probably the most important, because I need to have full distance from this script in order to cut the way that I want to cut. Now, I don't think I'm going to cut all 10 pages out this next draft, but I'd love to get down to like 112, to cut half of those 10 pages, cut 5 pages, and really consider what's important, what's going to move the story forward, and what is me being a little bit self-indulgent in terms of telling this story and expressing the themes and the information that I want to express, and not what's best to help Ash and Mitch, who are now more human, more alive than they ever have been before, express their own story and go through their own journey. Because ultimately, if their journey is complete and fulfilled, then all of the stuff that I want to communicate is gonna be in there, as long as I do the work of making sure that my words and the actions and everything is serving the story, and not having the story serve me and my intentions. So that's the energy that I'm gonna bring into the next draft, to draft 7, lucky number 7, in just a couple weeks when I start that. But until then, I'm going to keep filling my cup, watching more movies. I'm going to go meet people, have coffee, and explore new things, and just generally enjoy this time away from the script and forget about it as much as possible, so that when I come back to it, I can see it with fresh eyes and really find ways to hone and tighten it and help it communicate everything that it needs to communicate, to tell the story of these two people falling in love, figuring out their own anxieties, dealing with grief and the meaning of community and the meaning of failure, and make it all as interesting and funny and sexy and cool as possible. So thank you all so much for being here with me on this journey. If you liked this video, please hit the like button, and I will see you next week. Despite taking off of writing, I'm gonna be back here next week with more of Cake Fight Presents The Making Of, talking about more stuff about making a movie. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you then.